Howdy folks, and welcome back to another episode of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, aka the Bible. Jacob of Ephraim here. We got another little deep dive for you. In my previous video, we talked on this page right here, talking about one zodiacal year, or great year, is 30 times 72, and I broke that down how it's 2,160 years, right, for us to go through one house of the zodiacs. Okay, so we're moving out of Pisces and we're going into Aquarius. Now this is important, okay? This information is important, especially when you actually look straight across. We've got Leo the lion. And this guy is going to come into a very important discussion here, part of the discussion. And one of the things I'd like to introduce everybody to is something that is kind of similar. If you actually tip it up this way, or at an angle, either way, it's still a crossing, or planet of the crossing, as in Nemesis, Nibiru, Wormwood, Planet X, whatever you want to call it. And as we're moving into here, directly across from us is Leo. Well, why would that be significant? Well, let me show you. Nemesis takes approximately 12,000 years to complete its orbit around our sun, okay, to come back around. Okay, and you can find it on multiple different sites. 12,000 year long orbit around the sun. Okay, so that got me thinking. It got me thinking on what is an orbit? Well, it's like this, right? But it's also 360 degrees is a complete circle or an orbit. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, makes sense to me. 360 degrees, I mean, in our zodiac, 360 degrees, to make a complete orbit or circle. Well, it's kind of funny. I actually kind of chose this because of another object, which is kind of very relevant, is this cryptocurrency sign. This is XLM, or stellar lumens, in relation to the sun or Saturn. This is actually kind of like Saturn. Here's the planet, and here's the rings, but notice how it also goes straight across, right? Kind of like this goes straight across. Just something to think about. So if it's 2,160 years for us to go through one zodiac sign, and we're into here, when was the last time we were in Leo? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so going from here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well, let's multiply this times 6. We get 12,960. Wow, that's pretty significant. I mean, we got the 12,000, but we've also got, it's a little off. You got 960 years. I mean, you'd have to try and find some way to hide 960 years, basically. Well, how do you do that? So let's take we'll get to that in just a moment on how you do that. But let's take the 12,000, okay? Because we know that Nemesis, from what we've read, takes 12,000 years to do a cycle, right? 12,000 years. And it's 360 degrees, right? To do a complete orbit. I wonder what that equals. Whoa. 33 and a third, 33.333333 is literally 33, and that's a third. Is that why the Freemasons can't go any higher than 33 and a third? Because it's infinite? 33 and a third, and it just keeps on going? It's literally 33 and a third. It just continues to go. Well, wait a minute here. How does that tie in with the Freemasons? Let's check it out. 33-degree law of the Masonic Phoenicians. Number 33 is said to be the master number, master teacher. The Amen, or Amen, is a numerical equivalent of, blah, 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 equaling 33. Amen is the God of truth, and 33 represents Christ consciousness, not necessarily Christ himself. In the book of Enoch, Mount Hermon is the place where the Grigori Watchers, sons of God, or the Nephilim, a class of fallen angels, descended to Earth and is at 33 degrees latitude and longitude. Is Mount Hermon? Really? That's pretty interesting, don't you think, folks? So 33 and a third degree formations are, look at this, as in Gregorian calendar? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now here, this ties into this very nicely. Look at this. New Year's Day moves. Wait a minute here. Ancient cultures, including those of the Romans and Hindus, celebrated New Year's Day on or around April 1st. Wait a minute. It closely follows the vernal equinox, March 20th or March 21st. In medieval times, much of Europe celebrated March 25th, the feast of Initiation, as the beginning of the new year. It's kind of funny how it's Anu, like Anunnaki. Sorry, just pointing that out. In 1582, Pope Gregory the 13th ordered a new calendar, their Gregorian calendar, to replace the old Julian calendar. The new calendar called for New Year's Day to be celebrated January 1st. January as in Janus or Janus. Speaking of Janus, when you come back to the zodiacal sign, doesn't Gemini, two faces, kind of remind us of Janus? And maybe this is the correct time of when Janus came in and took over? I don't know. It's a possibility, but I'll digress. Now, if we look here, it also says that that year, France adopted the reformed calendar and shifted New Year's Day to January 1st. 1-1. Again, another reference to Janus. According to popular explanation, many people either refused to accept the new date or did not learn about it and continued to celebrate New Year's Day on April 1st. Other people began to make fun of these traditionalists, sending them on fool's errands or trying to trick them into believing something false. Eventually, the practice spread throughout Europe. And what are we talking about here, folks? April Fool's Day. Origin and history of it. Basically, we got fooled on April Fool's Day when they fooled us with switching around the calendar. April Fool's Day, sometimes called April Fool's Day, is one of the most lighthearted day of the year. Its origins are uncertain, unfortunately, which I think I'm onto something here, but some see it as a celebration related to the turn of the seasons, while others believe it stems from the adoption of a new calendar. So let's go ahead and go on down here a little bit further. And as we come down, we can see that it also ties to Constantine and Kugel. Another explanation of the origins on April Fool's Day was provided by Joseph Boskin, a professor of history at Boston University. He explained that the practice began during the reign of Constantine, when a group of court jesters and fools told the Roman emperor that they could do a better job of running the empire. Constantine, amused, allowed a jester named Kugel to be king for one day. Kugel passed an edict calling for absurdity on that day, and the custom became an annual event. Annual, Anunnaki. In a way, explained Professor Boskin, it was a very serious day. In those times, fools were really wise men. It was the role of jesters to put things in perspective with humor, basically for people to understand. This explanation was brought to public attention in the Associated Press article printed by many newspapers in 1983. There was only one catch. Boskin made the whole thing up, so they claim. It took a couple of weeks for the AP to realize that they'd been victims of April Fool's joke themselves. But could that really be far from the truth? I don't know. It is noteworthy, though, that many different cultures have had days of foolishness around the start of April, give or take a couple of weeks. The Romans had a festival named Hilaria, that's funny, hilarious, on March 25th, rejoicing in the resurrection of Atis. The Hindu calendar has Holi, Holi, like holy day, holiday, and the Jewish calendar has Purim. Perhaps there's something about the time of year, with its turn from winter to spring, that sends itself to light-hearted celebrations. Well, did you happen to know that the phase of the moon, if you go by the moon calendar, actually puts April 1st as the new year? And there's a nice little explanation for that. And that explanation is to hide time. You want to change time around. You want to manipulate time. You want to manipulate and hide that 960 years that we're missing. Okay, so we have some missing time from the, well, how else would you do it? Well, daylight savings time? Think about it. You lose an hour, you gain hours, supposedly? No. How many of you happen to know this? That the fiscal year starts on April 1st as well, on April Fool's Day, the fiscal year. And guess where it started, folks? In England. Folks, I'm really embarrassed. I've deleted the video, but from what I remember, of it, I can basically break down these 2 months here. He broke down the whole thing, but basically October is the 8th month. Oct is 8 or octagon. December, dec or 10 equals decameter. Same thing, or decimeter, however you want to pronounce it. But this is actually the way that it should go. So you're taking off from the bottom, moving it up to the top. Same thing with your daylight savings time. You're moving it back and forth. Well, this is a really good way of trying to hide time. Now, to circle back, who knows what that sounds like? Who that sounds like? To circle back to where we were talking about time. You want to manipulate and try and hide 960 years, because what happens? At every 12,000, we know that we're going to have a crossing, right, of Nemesis. Well, when we look across, right across here, we find Leo, the lion. Now, why is this significant, and how does he tie into the Bible? Well, let me show you. The lion. The lion is very significant in the Bible. A lion's roar can be heard up to 5 miles away and is intended to terrify all who hear it. Lions roar to establish their territory and to communicate their power, but a roar can do nothing. It is threatening but powerless unless we give in to fear and allow the lion to overtake us. There's some are saying it's mentioned 84 times in the Bible. Some are saying it's 86 times, fear of God. And this is kind of where I'm wanting to circle around to this, the fear of God. If you were to look up and see something like this, well, we've got one sun, but wait a minute, there's a second one. This would start putting the fear of God in you. This would be a day that men's hearts would fail them when everyone starts to wake up and see this thing. Now, what could you expect from this when it passes? Would it not sound like the roar of a lion? As it goes by, you would think you would hear thunders and loud tearing up of the earth. The earth would quake and rumble and roar. Lightning strikes, thunders across the sky, all of those things, and put the fear of God into the mightiest of men. And that's mentioned in the Bible many times as well. So, is it plausible or probable that all this calendar hiding and all this time hiding and manipulation is to try and hide that 960 years? Because Nemesis is going to be passing us? So we've made our connection with the crossing. Okay, we know that it's 12,960 years. Okay, and we know that they're hiding time and time manipulation. We've made our connections over here with Leo the lion and to the Bible and how it's mentioned multiple times in the Bible. So my question is, if you happen to have a telescope and you watch the stars like I do, and you saw this on a telescope or through satellites, this was actually a picture that was taken off from Google Sky. Look at this. Nibiru, a planet with wings, or actually Nemesis because of the dust cloud, the red iron oxide going across from it, all the comets and the meteors that are around it. And then imagine you seeing this in the sky and knowing that it's this big. Would that not put the fear of God in you, in everyone on this planet? Oh yeah. And mainstream media and governments, they don't want that because they know their butts are going to be hung up to dry. They're going to be hung out they're going to be strung up and killed. Well, check this out. This is Neptune. And if you watch this, Neptune is actually heating up on the South Pole. Well, why would the South Pole of Neptune be going up? Because it's in our solar system. Look at this. A second sun is on the underside. Nemesis comes up from underneath us. That's right, folks. From way out and under us. Comes up at an angle. It's time to get real, folks, and start waking up. So keep your eyes open, folks. No fear. And remember that love is the only way forward.